Hello and welcome to today's conversation on managing stress and anxiety, strategies for a balanced and peaceful life. My name is Matt Gamble. I'm a resident in counseling in the state of Virginia. I'm also a PhD candidate in the Counselor Education and Supervision program at Walden University. So let's just go ahead and jump in to managing stress and anxiety. Let's start out with a definition of stress and anxiety. People generally will want to use those stress and anxiety interchangeably, not exactly the same thing, but it's not inaccurate either. So stress is a state of mental or emotional strain or tension resulting from adverse or very demanding circumstances. So stress is just something that's put on us, say work, school, children, life circumstances. Stress is just things that are put on us that are very demanding and at times can overwhelm our ability to cope with them. Anxiety is a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease, typically about an imminent event or something with an uncertain outcome. So, going to a doctor's appointment, the person who made the appointment for you called you, sound uneasy, like there was something that they wasn't exactly being completely truthful about. That's an uncertain outcome about what's going to happen at that doctor's visit. Anxiety generally occurs from an accumulation of stressful events, and that can happen day to day, week to week, moment to moment, even actually. So in the next upcoming slides, I'll discuss the importance of managing stress and anxiety. First, let's look at some of the symptoms of anxiety. As you can see, there is a lot of them. Generally, they fall into a couple of categories. But feeling panic, expectation of doom, that's kind of like saying, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. That's an old euphemism. Feeling of expected danger, insomnia, sleep problems, broken sleep, poor quality of sleep, not being able to stay calm or still, cold, sweaty, numb, or tingling hands or feet, shortness of breath, hyperventilation, heart palpitations. Your heart feels like it's about to come out of your chest, dry mouth, nausea, tense muscles, dizziness, rumination, thinking about a problem over and over again with the inability to stop that, obsessively avoiding feared objects or places. So a lot of these symptoms are very broad, and as I said, they're generally categorized into several different categories. But don't diagnose yourself. Seek out a trained mental health professional before making any self-diagnoses. Let's see. Let's move on. Understanding stress. So we generally say this, on a daily basis. I'm stressed out. Or we may say something, I'm in a state of distress, but that's not always necessarily an accurate depiction of what we're feeling. So eustress is a normal, healthy psychological degree of stress. A certain level of stress is healthy and beneficial for us. It keeps us moving, it keeps us motivated. Distress is the exact opposite. It is an abnormal level of psychological distress. It is unhelpful and unbeneficial and is overwhelming and can cause many of the symptoms that we just went over of anxiety. So when you're talking to someone, make sure that you're gauging your stress based on whether it's eustress or distress. Eustress is healthy, distress is unhealthy. Common causes of stress can include work, I think we've all felt that before, relationships, and health. Our health is paramount to our well-being. There is a direct connection between our mental health and our physical well-being and health. Relationships, as we all know, can at times be stressful and distressing even. So the impact of stress and anxiety on our physical body. Physical effects of stress and anxiety. You can have stress headaches, fatigue, and insomnia. So, while insomnia is a symptom of anxiety, it can also be a side effect of anxiety. On the emotional aspect, stress and anxiety can cause irritability, mood swings, and low self-esteem. If you're someone who is chronically stressed, chronically anxious, odds are that you're going to have low self-esteem, poor self-concept, and irritability. Irritability is a frequent indicator of anxiety. The benefits of effective management of anxiety. So, when you are effectively managing your anxiety and your stress levels, you're going to have improved mental health, physical and well being, better decision making. The reason you'll have better decision making abilities is because you'll be in a clearer headspace. You're not going to have all these worries, chatting at you in this ear. Oh, you need to be worried about this. You need to be worried about that. That's not going to be there. You're going to be clear headed and able to more effectively make better decisions. Mm-hmm. There's also a direct correlation between chronic anxiety and poor physical well-being. Chronic stress and anxiety is also an indicator of heart health to a degree. So if you're someone who's chronically stressed, chronically anxious, odds are there's a likelihood of heart disease, something along those lines. So it behooves us to manage our stress and anxiety levels. Oh, strategies for managing stress. So there's a saying that I like to use. If you want something you've never had, you have to be willing to do something you've never done. A lot of us have made it through life using the same strategies to manage stress, to manage pretty much everything in our life because they've benefited us in the past. But in actuality, as in different stages of our life, those same useful strategies tend to be hindrances. So you must be willing to change. If you're not willing to change, then do not expect your circumstances to change, is what I'm trying to say there. So, strategies for managing stress include lifestyle changes, including regular exercise, healthy diet, and making sleep a priority. You can also engage in mindfulness and relaxation. Mindfulness consists of deep breathing exercises, meditation, yoga, progressive muscle relaxation. These are all excellent methods of managing a lot of the physical symptoms of stress and anxiety that we're all used to feeling. Muscle tension, tightness in the shoulders. Progressive muscle relaxation is an excellent way to help relieve that. So, and one way that you could do progressive muscle relaxation, if you've had a particularly stressful day at home, on your commute home, you notice that there's a lot of stress or cramp in your shoulders or anywhere you may notice it in your body. When you get home, engage in a progressive muscle relaxation exercise. It takes 5 to 10 minutes. You can find some really good narrated progressive muscle relaxation exercises on YouTube. There's also scripts available online. Find one, try it out. Yoga, I recommend for clients to engage in yoga. I do not personally lead yoga classes. I tend to be more on the meditative side of life, so I have my own personal meditation regiment that I engage in, and I generally encourage clients to also engage in meditation. Deep breathing is an excellent method of relieving anxiety and tension in the moment because we're all breathing naturally. It's something that we do not have to think about to engage in. We breathe as we live. See there? So, but you can engage in deep breathing in the moment with a stressful or anxious situation by just simply taking 3 to 5 very deep breaths, holding it for 2 to 3 seconds, and letting it out. And the reason deep breathing works is it activates a part of our nervous system that generally is only activated when we're asleep. So we're tricking our body into thinking that we're going to sleep or in the process of trying to get to sleep. And that helps us to relax. It activates our parasympathetic nervous system, which is engaged while we're asleep. And it induces a sense of relaxation, muscle relaxation, but it keeps the vital processes of the body working. It's kind of like being on autopilot while you sleep. Time management. Time management is an excellent tool for managing stress and anxiety. Prioritize your task. If you know you've got 4 or 5 errands to run today, but you're going to be short on time, make sure you stop at the most important errand first, then prioritize them downward. Um, Learn to say no. A lot of people struggle to say no. We all are people pleasers. That's a broad generalization, yes, but it's something that I think is very common and something that I work with a lot of my clients is how to say no and how to say no without feeling guilty about it. So don't take on tasks because you're trying to show off or you're trying to make yourself look good to your boss or whatever, your coworkers. Don't do that. All you're doing is putting stress on yourself, and stress has a tendency to trickle downhill. That's part of the irritability. Let's say you work a very busy schedule at an office, wherever it may be. Your schedule is technically full as is. Your boss comes to you and says, "Hey, would you like to take on this project?" Instead of saying no and setting that boundary, you say yes because you're hoping for a promotion, hoping for a good bonus at the end of the year, whatever. And so by taking on this task, you end up staying at the office much later than is normal. That trickles down into producing problems with relationships, families, etc., etc., etc. So saying no is a skill of time management, which is a skill of managing stress and anxiety. Set realistic goals. If it's Saturday, don't expect to, cut all of the grass, install 3 or 4 new flower gardens. Set realistic goals, because if you set these audacious and unreal expectations of yourself, you're going to be disappointed, which tends to fall into the category of poor self-esteem. That continuous not meeting your own expectation, your own unrealistic expectation, leads into automatic thoughts of, well, I'm a failure, I can't do anything right, which leads to poor self-concept, poor self-esteem. That's another rabbit hole that we'll go down in a different video. Coping with anxiety. So recognizing your anxiety triggers. Where does your anxiety come from? Is it work? Is it relationships? If it's relationships, maybe you need to think about what it is about that relationship that needs to change and having that conversation with that person. If it's work, it could just as easily be setting respectful and logical boundaries and learning to say no. Understanding your personal triggers. There are things about us that really just can set us off into becoming irritable, becoming anxious. I don't technically like repeating myself, even though I do it a lot. But it's a pet peeve of mine that, while not necessarily triggering my anxiety, does make me irritable. But it's a good thing. It's good to understand yourself, and then you'll understand where your anxiety comes from and how you can best manage it. Cognitive behavioral techniques. So cognitive behavior is a type of therapy, cognitive behavior therapy. Cognition or cognitive implies our thoughts, what's going on inside our head. Behavior implies behavioral, which is what we're doing in the world. What behaviors are we engaging in? I expect everyone knows what the word behavior means. That child is engaging in bad behavior and something needs to be done about it. So there is a direct connection between what we think and how we behave. And that's where cognitive behavior therapy comes in and attempts to solicit a change in the behavior, because that's generally what we want. We're not trying to change a person's thoughts, generally speaking. Sometimes with depression, yes, we need to change thoughts, improve self-esteem, but that also tends to have a behavioral response, which is generally what we're looking for. So some cognitive behavioral techniques include challenging negative thoughts. If you've got an automatic thought that just pops into your head that says I'm worthless, etc., 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 that's a negative thought pattern, and we want to change or derail that thought pattern. Technically, we want to extinguish. When we talk about removing a thought from our mind, it's called extinguishing. We want to extinguish that thought. So one way of extinguishing a thought is replacing a negative thought with a positive thought. Instead, if an automatic negative thought comes in, each time it comes in and it says you're useless, you're pathetic, whatever the negative thought may be, challenge it with a positive thought. No, I'm not useless. No, I'm not worthless. I am worthy. I produce quality results. I am worthy of good things. That will eventually, it will take time. Thoughts, cognitions do not change overnight, so do not set unrealistic expectations of yourself. It takes time for a thought to be extinguished, so give yourself time and space. I've got another saying I like to use: be gentle with the parts of yourself that you're still working on. Cognitions take time to change. Be gentle with that. Don't expect to completely extinguish all negative thoughts in one day, 24 hours, even 72 hours. It's going to take some time. Reframing catastrophic thinking. If you're someone who always expects and thinks that the worst is going to happen, so what if it does happen? What if it does happen? What will happen if it does happen? What is most likely going to happen? Um, a classic example is Chicken Little and the sky is falling. That is catastrophic thinking. Okay, so let's say that the sky is falling. So what? What's going to happen if the sky falls? The sky is just air and empty space. Okay, so we're going to get hit with a bunch of emptiness. Is that going to do anything to us? Generally, no. Practicing positive self-talk. So if you have a lot of negative thoughts, odds are it's not going to be in your habit to practice positive self-talk, but it is something that can be beneficial. Generally speaking, the brain is not capable of telling what's real and what's not real in the world. So if you wake up every morning and the world could literally be on fire, but if you tell yourself using your internal monologue or using your voice, the world is okay, the world is a good place, eventually your cognitive side will start to believe that yes, the world is okay, even though it's actually burning down around us. But practice positive self-talk, you'll be surprised at the results that could come from that. Seeking support is another incredible way of managing stress. Humans are essentially herd animals. We like being in groups, whether it's small groups of like-minded people, all the way up to large groups of unlike minds. So talk to a trusted friend or family member, someone you can trust to divulge some of your anxieties to. You can also seek out professional help. In a different video, I did a breakdown of the differences between professional mental health professionals. Seek out a therapist, seek out a counselor. A lot of times you'll find that social workers also practice as therapists. There are psychiatrists, psychologists. There's a host of mental health professionals that you can talk to about your anxieties. Taking care of yourself, self-care, and for stress and anxiety. So regular exercise, balanced nutrition, and quality sleep. This kind of mirrors what was discussed in a previous slide, the regular exercise, taking care of your physical well-being as a method of reducing your anxiety, and quality sleep. So as previously stated, it's sleep and anxiety are kind of like a chicken egg thing. Which happened first? Am I anxious because I don't sleep well, or do I not sleep well because I'm anxious? And that's something that you can discuss and work through with a trained mental health professional. And a lot of times what we find is that people just have have variable sleep patterns. And if you get back into a normal sleep routine, the body likes routine and schedule. If you get back into a normal sleep schedule, a lot of times your sleep will improve. So that's just something to keep in mind. Emotional self-care. Express your emotions. Let people know how you're feeling. If you're bottling stuff up, eventually that cork is going to pop, and you're going to have an outburst, if you will, an angry outburst, and you get to be that person in the office. So express your emotions. Let people know how you feel. Particularly with expressing yourself, use I statements. And what we mean when we say I statements is, I feel, insert how you're feeling here when you engage, provide a description of the behavior that's making you feel some sort of way. I feel anxious and stressed when you come to me expecting me. I feel anxious and stressed when you expect me to take on all of these additional projects on top of my already busy schedule. That's an example of expressing how you feel. Engage in your hobbies. I technically do not consider sitting around playing video games necessarily to be a hobby. For some people it works. I find that for most people it's not really a healthy hobby to engage in. Get up, find some sort of physical activity. Practicing gratitude. Practicing gratitude is something that is still fairly emergent in the mental health research as far as managing stress and anxiety, but it's proving to be very beneficial and hopeful. So Say thank you either verbally with your voice or internal monologue of things that you are thankful for that happened in your life. Again, another example of, you've had a stressful day at work. On your commute home, just list the things in your mind that happened during the day so far that you are thankful for. I'm getting to go home to see my children. I'm getting to go home to see my partner. What are you thankful for? What are you expressing gratitude for? Social self-care. We forget that we are made up of a lot of different aspects: our physical, mental health, social mental health. There's a lot of aspects that make up a single person, and social life, as I've alluded to, is one of those. Like I said, when I said we are basically herd animals. Spend time with loved ones. um, Find a supportive group. If you're a member of a church, find a supportive group with amongst them. Bible study, perhaps. uh, there are a variety of little leagues that you can join if you're a sports person. Engage in social activities. I have a group of friends. We meet up. It's fairly irregular, but when we do meet up, when a meeting is scheduled, I do tend to attend because I enjoy seeing their faces. I enjoy hearing what's been going on with them. I find all that very helpful. Building resilience. Develop a growth mindset. So embrace a challenge that is realistic. View setbacks as opportunities for growth and foster a positive outlook. If you switch your negative automatic self-talk, which we talked about earlier, to a positive self-talk, that requires extinguishing that cognitive thought, you're more likely to develop a positive outlook. Something that we do in therapy, a lot of in therapy, is exploring core values. And core values is your most basic thoughts about the world. Is the world a safe place? Are people inherently good, or are people inherently bad? These are things that we talk about in therapy, and that a lot of our core values determine whether we have a positive or pessimistic outlook. So assess that for yourself if you would like to. And if you find that you hold some fairly rotten ideas about humanity and the world, seek out therapy. You might be surprised at what you can dig into. Problem solving. Problem solving is another awesome way of managing stress and anxiety. People get stumped with problems that we find in therapy that people get stumped with a lot of life struggles, life problems. But these are very large, huge problems that people bring into therapy to want to talk about. A thing that we do in therapy is helping clients break down these huge challenges into small, manageable steps. So a client will come into therapy with their goal of I want to feel the way I used to. That's an actual goal that people will bring into therapy. Well, what did you used to feel like? Okay, you used to be happy, energetic, outgoing. Okay, and that's when you were 20 years old. Okay, all right. So how can I help you get to the energy and the emotional aspect that you had when you were 20 years old? So now you're 40, getting tired, committed to work, committed to family, but how can you still have all these aspirations, energy, and spontaneity you had when you were 20? So there's a lot of components to that. So we would break each component down and problem solve, as we talked about earlier, or are talking about now. How can we break this down into smaller tasks to complete in the very near future? And seeking creative solutions. Therapists are also awesome people to talk to as far as just seeking a creative solution. Um, Building resilience. Learn to adapt. Be flexible in the face of change. If there's a change coming at your office, place of employment, or just in your life, be flexible with that. People who are rigid in their inability to adapt tend to fare much worse when the change actually occurs than those who are flexible. Embracing uncertainty. I generally try to embrace uncertainty. A lot of people will struggle with that because we like for things to be certain. We like for there to be a clear light at the end of the tunnel. You'll find in life, if you haven't already, that there's not always a clear end of the tunnel. Even the light may not even be there. There may not even be an end of the tunnel. It's just like being a hamster on the wheel, just keeps going. Um, Try to embrace the whatever degree of uncertainty you are comfortable with. That will help reduce stress and anxiety, and it also goes back to that waiting for the other shoe to drop. If you're someone who's just sitting around waiting for the sky to fall, we know it's not ever really going to fall. But if you're just sitting around waiting for the sky to fall, you're just going to develop nervous anxiety, stress. So embrace the uncertainty. Let's see what happens. Final thoughts. Managing stress and anxiety is a continuous process. Again, it's like being a hamster on the running wheel. But with using the skills and the ideas discussed here in this video, you'll find maybe you can at least slow down on the running wheel some. Maybe you won't fall off. Go at a steady pace and implement the strategies we've talked about here today. The time management, problem solving, all of those, eating a healthy diet, some physical exercise, 1 to 2 days a week is really enough. Some physical exercise, getting quality sleep, and implementing some of the anxiety management skills that we talked about, or that I talked about. Meditation, yoga, um, progressive muscle relaxation, those are all awesome ways of reducing stress, managing anxiety. And I hope you have found some of this at least beneficial, and I hope that you'll implement some of these into your life. Have an awesome day.